I'll get started so people don't have to sit here all night if you have other things to do. For anyone who hasn't come to any of my town halls, I do them every month. I'm George Kruse, I'm an at-large commissioner, so I'm not your District 4 commissioner, but every month I do a town hall at a different library, so that's close to where you are. So this month, obviously, we're here, down in District 4. And some of you I may have met over the course, especially during the storms. I spent virtually every day in Cortez. I spent a lot of time in Cheller Estates and up by Whitfield Valentine. But all my town halls, I don't do a presentation. I know some people come in and do something and try to show you all the great things we do at the county or tell you what I want you. I don't do any presentation. My town halls are start to finish, question and answer. You can ask me anything, to the extent I can, I will answer anything. Or you can just tell me a concern you have and I write it down, or my aides, Dana's in the back, she'll write it down. We will look into it for you. If we get your contact information, I'll get back to you. This is what I've been doing for over 2 years now. I think this is my 25th or 26th town hall in a row for months, except for during the campaign, because I got accused of campaigning in county property. So that's what these are. There's literally no agenda whatsoever. I am here at your disposal for any questions you may have or concerns you may have or anything you want to talk to me about. I'm here for you. So that's the extent of my introduction. So if anyone has any questions about anything, I will do my best to answer, sometimes almost too much. Anyone have a question?
I'll ask a question.
Yes, sir.
All this business with the fires in California made me realize that.
You were going to ask me about a bridge a minute ago.
No, I'll talk to you about that later. But I just was thinking, the people there were not prepared for catastrophes. And so we're seeing the result of that. Now, we don't get wildfires here, but I found myself wondering, is Manatee County, in your opinion, well positioned for catastrophes? In other words, they had no water in the aqueducts, they had, fire engines that weren't working, they had budgets that were reduced.
Sure. I can suggest your question. Their issue, and I'm not going to go into the politics of California, they know they have fires. They have fires all the time. You can only prepare for what you can prepare for, and sometimes just things like COVID happens, like nobody prepared for that, who would have guessed that. Our big issues have been, in recent memory, storms, whether that be flooding or storm surge or otherwise. I believe we are prepared to the fullest extent we can be. Can we do better? 100% we can do better, and I believe this board is going to make every effort now that we have 3 storms. We had Ian, that was awful. I spent a lot of time on ACA trying to fix that. We try to have some best practices about hardening some of our utilities and so forth as a result of that. We always do a kind of a deep dive after to figure out what did we do right, what did we do wrong, to make sure we can fix that next time. What we saw this time was a lot of issues related to flooding. And if you look at, for instance, we're going to Tallahassee next week. We moved all the roads and all the nicety things off of our priority list for appropriations and crammed in all sorts of stormwater. Trying to make sure things like Center Lake and Sylvan Oaks up in Palmetto and other, there was a lot of bad engineering in the past. There's a lot of bad engineering now. We're trying to fix that because we understand even reasonable amounts of rain are causing people to be displaced from their homes. And so this is a big effort by the county right now. We just got awarded a fairly large block grant from the federal government as a result of these storms. The board hasn't really discussed how we're handling that, what we're doing with the municipalities, but my proposal, and again, I'm only one of 7, was to spend all of it on fixing stormwater, because we need to get back to the proper place. And we need to get all of our maps updated before we keep approving developments. Like Star Farms is a brand new development. That flooded. That's brand new. You can't even argue that's old engineering. That's engineering from 2022. We need to fix those. We need to get our models up to date, our slosh models relative to, which is a model that FEMA puts out that gives you indication of flooding relative to storm surge based upon topography. So we need to get all these things up to date before we keep moving forward, making mistakes in the future, because we can't keep looking and saying, you made a mistake in the past, and we're going to keep making the same mistakes in the future. So we can't really account for fire per se, because it's not something that's been an issue for us. Could it? Sure. But right now it's not. Our big issue is flooding and hurricanes. There are some other best practices relative to those. The question is, where's the pain point in doing them, and what does the county control versus the cities? Like, we're getting a lot of pushback on the 50% rule of FEMA. If your home was damaged more than 50% of their assessed value, then you have to effectively redo your home into a more sustainable way, put it on stilts or harden it in some way. We're getting a lot of pushback. That is very expensive. So we don't control the island, but obviously a lot of places out on the Anna Marie Island cross that 50% threshold, and they're dealing with how do they handle that. But the parts that are unincorporated, we've got places like out in Cortez, where there were some homes that crossed that threshold. So there are ways we can better prepare, but then the question is, how far do you go to prepare, especially if we're forcing homeowners to potentially do things that are going to displace homeowners? Because if they can't come out of pocket and put that money into their home, they're just going to end up selling their property and moving. So we are working every time a storm hits. We try to figure out what we can do better next time. That's why you saw lift stations come online faster, not fast, but faster this time, because we were better prepared with the generators to the extent we can buy and store the generators. And we had a better system for rotating those around to keep more of the lift stations online than we did during Ian and during Irma, because those are things we learned there. And we bought up the generators, and we had a plan for dispersing those around to keep those lift stations up. Did you have a question about a bridge while we're on the
Like I said, a couple of us will get some time if you talk to us separately. It's just that the issue is that FDOT is looking for a place to put a new bridge across the Manatee River.
Your concern is the one going down the canal, right?
Yeah, I mean, they have a couple options they've narrowed it down to, and they go through neighborhoods. Yes, Sanctuary Cove is where I.
Because you said you sent me an email. In fact, I was supposed to come speak at Sanctuary Cove, and there was some sort of conflict during the campaign.
That was for the election.
Understood. That's not a county thing right now. The answer, because I remember your email. I'll try to backtrack for everybody's sake. We've got multiple bridges coming across from north of the river to south of the river. West of 75, we have two, obviously. Minnesota Bridge and Green Bridge. DOT contemplates lots of things. They're contemplating whether or not a third bridge west of 75 will help alleviate some of the congestion in downtown Palmetto and downtown Bradenton by redirecting people away from the downtown core areas. They looked at everything from something way out by 59th to something way over by Braden Castle, and multiple spots in between. There's 10 different proposals. They've narrowed it down to 5, one of which goes through Sanctuary Cove.
They say they're down to 3 now.
Maybe they're down to 3 since the last time I saw. Last time they presented to us, it was 5. It could be down to 3. That said, bridges are very expensive. They take a long time to permit, and we presently have 5 bridges past their useful life right now that all have to be replaced at tremendous cost, and a new bridge at Fort Hammer that still needs to be built. So if I was a betting person, I'd be shocked if that bridge ever happens. I certainly wouldn't be shocked if that bridge happened anytime in the foreseeable future. I do not believe that's where DOT is going to expend their money when we have to replace DeSoto Bridge, have to replace Green Bridge. They're starting this year on Cortez Bridge, then they have to do the Manatee Avenue Bridge, and we still have the connection between Bradenton Beach and Longboat Key that has to be replaced. All of those have to be done. The total cost of those bridges is well in excess of $1 billion. I don't know if they're looking at traffic patterns for another bridge right now. I also don't believe that's the correct way of doing it. Back in the day, there was a proposal, and they were replacing the bridges near downtown to do a flyover over downtown. That's a much better system. And it'll fix their problem way more than redirecting people, especially if they have to eminent domain people's homes and run yet another road and another bridge through an existing neighborhood.
You know what I would say? 15 minutes get a couple people from my neighborhood who are working on this with you would be really helpful. So I'll set something up.
Yeah, set something up with Dana.
But I appreciate your thoughts on that.
If it's all from your neighborhood, I'll come up to your neighborhood.
Terrific.
Thank you this time.
Terrific.
Since you can't get over the bridges because they're full. Any other questions? Yes, sir.
I can't remember the name of it right now, but there was that proposal for the multi-use trail between Palmetto and Parish. What is the future of that, and then what is the future of like bicycle infrastructure south of the river?
Perfect. I can go through the last 2 hours on this one. Trails are my favorite thing. I came into this and my first priority was getting a trail system built. I love this trail system. I spent 4 years preparing for this trail system. I just had a meeting 2 days ago on the trail. I have a meeting next Friday on the trail system. I hate roads. Everyone knows this. I've said this publicly. People said don't say it publicly. If it was up to me, I'd never pave another lane of a road. All we do is keep trying to figure out how to make cars work better here, and more people move here, and more cars come here. We're going to be playing catch up forever until we just pave every square inch of green space in Manatee County and just create endless road systems that are still going to be congested. That's how it works. We need to come up with a better system. We have the water taxi going. That's becoming expanded. I've made our board, at my proposal, made all the transit buses free to start encouraging that increased ridership by 58%. But we need to do more on a larger scale. One of the best ways we can do that is with a real trail system. Originally, 4 years ago, the talk was more of a recreational trail system. And I always use the example of Legacy Trail because it's in close proximity here. We are a donut hole. Hillsborough, Pinellas, Pasco, Hernando, down to Sarasota, down to Charlotte, all have big trail systems. You can't get from one to the other because we're the empty spot in the middle if you look at the Sun Trail overall global map, which ultimately cuts east-west all the way to Titusville once it's fully built out. We're working with Trust for Public Lands, we're working with the state, Representative Buchanan at the federal level has been helping me, Representative Robinson at the state level has been helping me to start getting this built. There's 2 initial stages to this. Ultimately, there's gonna be a lot of stages. One is the north-south piece. That's the one that connects Hillsborough to Legacy Trail. That's what we call the gateway. That fills the hole. That's going to go from Bourneside 64, in terms of the piece we're building, Bourneside and 64, all the way up to Little Manatee State Park, up in Hillsborough and connect to their system. It's all designed out. Stantec designed it. We either have the land or we're in the process of working with a developer and other people to get easements for land. South of Bourneside, SMR already built the trail. It's already a 10-foot trail system from Bourneside all the way down the water side. And Sarasota is bringing Legacy through Bobby Jones, through Meadows, and then there's going to be a flyover eventually from the bottom of Nathan Benderson Park over to Lakewood Ranch waterside. That trail is going to go over that and connect to ours. That's how we connect to Legacy. Our first segment is going to be Bourneside 64 up to Rye Preserve, and Rye Preserve will be one of the first trailheads. There's bathrooms and there's parking there. We're also working on a trailhead down on State Road 70 as well, by Bourneside as part of the SMR piece. The piece you're referring to, the east-west piece, is the other piece we're simultaneously funding and designing. That goes from essentially the new parish park by the high school over to Lincoln Park in Palmetto. That one, we've already gotten funding from the federal level for. It's on our appropriations this year for the state. We have Tallahassee next week to try to get more funding. And we just submitted, whether or not we get it, but we just submitted a grant request for $15 million to the federal government towards building that. So both of those simultaneously be the first 2 pieces. From there, DOT is working on getting us from Lincoln across the bridge down to Manatee Avenue and a trail south of Manatee, like a block south of Manatee Avenue, because there's no right of way to do it on Manatee, over, and then it'll connect to Anna Maria, which I'm working on trying to get some of our tourist development tax money to put towards a Anna Maria Island full trail system, which would be a buffer protected trail system from Bean Point all the way down to Coquina.
Yeah, because there's that little stretch right now along Coquina, which is nice.
Correct.
But it stops.
But it stops. It doesn't do any good. But this would go from Bean Point down. Holmes Beach has been pushing for it. And so Mayor Gene Brown and myself have been saying, if you're gonna do it on Holmes Beach, just do the whole island, because Longboat's already starting a protected trail system on Longboat. So once that's done, that can get you all the way down to St. Armands and then reconnect to Legacy down there. So it's a big process. This is not gonna happen in the next year or 2, or my term. But, and I mean, Legacy started 20 years ago. They're still building this thing out. It's a long process, it's an expensive process, not just for the construction, but for the land and the easements. But we need to get the first shovel in the ground to get the proof of concept, 8 to 10 foot wide trail, sort of like Legacy. My proposal is if we're doing this anyway, do it as a 10 to 12 foot trail, and then take 24 to 36 inches of it, paint it so it's defined, and use that for e-bikes, because e-bikes are becoming very popular right now, and now you've turned it from just a recreational trail system into an actual commuter trail system. Because now you can actually be able to go from Parrish all the way downtown Sarasota on an e-bike without ever having any risk of getting hit by a car because you're on a protected buffered trail the whole thing. We start doing that, you get more people to use that as a form of commuting. That's one way of keeping cars off the road and starting to ease our congestion. I can keep talking about trails all night. Do you have any specific questions?
You may have just answered it, but I mean, I think of a trail as a recreational place where people walk their dogs, and the dogs are sniffing, and they're going this way, and they're going this way. And you couldn't move very fast, but you're saying e-bike dedicated area.
That's my proposal internally. We were just doing it as recreation. And that said, I mean, Legacy has people biking very fast, not running very fast, and they've dogged it. They're 8 to 10 foot wide, and nobody seems to have any problems. Just, you have to realize you're sharing it. You're not going out there. If you're training for the Tour de France, this probably isn't where you want to do your bike training. Like, you're not going to go that fast. This is more of you're hopping on a cruiser bike, or you're going during off hours if you want to go a little bit faster. Because there are going to be people pushing strollers. There are going to be people walking slow. There are going to be people walking their dogs. It's a shared bike trail, and so everyone has to be respectful of each other. They have signs to that. I don't know if you've been to Legacy. They did an excellent job. They have all kinds of stopping spots with water and benches. And what's great about it is, as it was getting built out, and it's a beautiful trail, now you have like restaurants, literally building restaurants on the trail. Like Joey D's has a restaurant closer to Venice, like right on the trail, and they have a whole thing for bike parking at their Joey D's, so people can be biking down the trail, just pull over and lock their bike and go eat, and then hop back on their bike and keep going. I mean, it creates an environment. It's not just a trail for trail's sake. It creates an experience in a location, and if we're getting these to go through some subdivisions, people can move into a subdivision, be able to bike out of their garage onto a trail system, like all the way up to Pinellas or all the way down to downtown Sarasota from their garage without ever leaving there, without even having to put it on a bike rack to get to something. So it's something I've been working very hard on. We've been fortunate in the last 2 finance cycles to start getting money. We put some ARP money towards it, we put some general fund money towards it. We now have enough money to get this first leg done, and that's why I keep saying we need to prove a concept. We need people to see a shovel in the ground so we can get a Friends of Greenway Trail system, whatever, just like there's a Friends of Legacy Trail. We need that to really start spurring this along. Fortunately, now I've got an entire board that's on board with it and staff that's on board with it. And again, at the federal level, Representative Buchanan's a big bike rider. He bikes up and down Longwood all the time. So he's been from day one. He called me when I first proposed that, and he's like, "What can we do?" So we've got the support for it. I'm fully confident we're going to get it done. It's just a matter of, as with anything in government, how much is it going to cost and how long is it going to take?
The Friends of Legacy,
No.
Legacy, is that a separate 501c3 or is that?
Yeah, there's lots of Friends of all kinds of things. There's a Friends, up here we have Friends of Manatee County Animal Welfare. We have,
So it's its own
each
separate-
library has its own Friends of group.
So it's its own separate nonprofit?
Yes, and it has its own board. It's independent of the county. We're not directly related. Like, there's a Friends of South Manatee Branch Library, and they raise money for things, and they'll buy some books. They'll buy, the one I know better, just because I know the people, it was more current because the library was a Friends of Lake Ranch Library, and they bought an insane amount of stuff there. they were buying 3D printers and setting up podcast studios and stuff. But they go out and raise the money themselves, and they basically act as a funding source for these. And Friends of Legacy Trail, it was twofold down there, and I've met with the president of it a number of times. One is raising money for the trail and for things like the benches and stuff. The other thing, and the more important thing honestly, is things in government get done faster and better when the public's on board. We can't cram something down people's throat and expect it to get done efficiently. The Friends of down there put a lot of effort into public advocacy to get support for Legacy Trail, and that makes it easier for the commissioners down there to go out and get the money. Makes it easier for their state reps and Representative Stubbe and people like that to get money because they know the public's in it. They do ultra marathons on their Legacy Trail. They do all kinds of events on it. So it's a two-pronged thing on what the Friends of will be. And this year, I'm hoping to at least start up the concept. Like, well, it's not a county thing. I'm gonna work to help facilitate starting it up as we get a shovel in.
I'm trying to think this through. Okay, you don't want to pave the county and have a giant freeway in every direction. Besides public transportation, bus system, and these trails, what else is there?
I mean, here's the thing, and this studies for this. If you add 50% capacity to a road, you add, what's gonna inevitably happen, in a short period of time, is you're gonna add 50% more cars to that road. That's just what happens. 44th is gonna have that flyover. By the end of this year, 44th will be done. It's gonna go all the way from Wardside to Anna Marie Island. And everyone's like, oh, this is gonna be a saver, it's gonna be so fast. No, it's not. People are just pile onto that road, and it's gonna be just as crowded as all the other roads. Because people are gonna, instead of taking side roads, they're gonna take 44th, because it's gonna be perceived to be faster, because it's a 4-lane straight road. It's a fallacy that building more. If you think more lanes fixes a problem, go look at the freeway system in Los Angeles. That's like 15 lanes each way, and it's wall-to-wall cars. Why? Because no one's gonna take the side roads in Los Angeles. You got a 15-lane highway. It's human nature. So, I'm sorry, I thought I was on mute. In real life, the better system, in my opinion, is one, start redirecting people to closer to where they want to be so they don't have to drive so much. I mean, you keep putting people out 20 miles from their employer, and then they have to drive 20 miles each way. You start making everything so unaffordable here that people live in DeSoto and Ruskin and South Pinellas, and then make them drive from South Pinellas to downtown Bradenton to get to work and tie up the bridges, which means we need another bridge. That's a terrible system. That's a system built around people having cars so people will be able to drive. And they can't afford $2,000 a month for rent here, but they can afford $1,500 a month in DeSoto, but then they end up spending $500 a month in gas to get to where they're going. So they break even, but then they just tie up my road, not to mention wasting 2 hours of time with their family. It's a bad system. That's why I've been pushing for incentives to encourage more infill location closer to employment centers, closer to where you have infrastructure, to keep people from needing to drive so much. If you look at downtown Bradenton, there's not a whole lot of people that work in downtown Bradenton, and there's nothing to do there. There's like 5 restaurants. Why is there that much traffic in downtown Bradenton and during rush hour? It's not because they're going to downtown Bradenton. It's because so many people come from Hillsborough and Pinellas, and they're going to Sarasota, and 75 is tied up, and they use us as a throughway. We're not the destination for most of these cars. We're a pass-through for most of these cars. That's why our traffic is so terrible. We all collectively need to fix that problem because they're causing us problems, but they don't pay us taxes. They live in Hillsborough. They don't even pay us taxes where they work. They work in Sarasota. They just use our roads and tie up our bridges. So we need to get people where they need to go. And people, look, in all honesty, traffic coming, and I know this is counterintuitive, people hate when I say this, but if I made every single street in this town 35 miles an hour with a roundabout at every intersection, you would get places faster than you do now. I promise you. With all my heart, you would get there faster because there wouldn't be endless accidents. There wouldn't be this lock system of lights where you hit a red light every 50 feet in this town because traffic flows smoother through roundabouts. And if everyone's driving 35 miles an hour in windy roads, so it's not just an endless sight line where people want to go 70 miles an hour and a 45 and blow down the street and then get into accidents which tie up traffic for miles, you would get there faster. But this is a fundamental shift in how we're doing things. We need to stop building straight roads. We need to stop thinking we can get somebody someplace faster simply by speeding them up. That's not the right way of doing it. At some point, you reach capacity where more people move here than we have the ability to build the roads for. It's just a fact. There's only so much land. I mean, if I made 301 in Ellington, 4 lanes each way, it would still be crowded. What's my next answer? 5 lanes? What's after that? 6 lanes? At some point, you have to say enough's enough. We've reached the maximum width of a road that we're comfortable handling, both from an environmental standpoint and from a cost standpoint. Now what? And the now what is either do something other than sit in your car, or just acknowledge the fact it's gonna take you 15 minutes longer to get someplace. Don't stress over it, just leave 15 minutes earlier, because I can't keep building you more and more lanes. It's $8.5 million a lane mile right now, between the cost of the land and the cost of the construction. $8.5 million per lane mile. So if I widen it both directions, that's $17 million a mile for 1 mile. How much of your tax money can I keep spending? And if we keep having flooding, the last thing you want to do is keep putting more and more impervious surface down endlessly. At some point, someone just has to be an adult room and say, we can't do anymore. This is not a viable, long-term, sustainable solution. Maybe I can get away with it for 4 years, and that's my term. Great, look at me, I just did something good. I built you a little bit wider road. Temporarily, you got someplace faster, now I can get reelected. Or do I want to actually look 20 or 30 years down the road, knowing that I'm not going to be here for it, but knowing I did it the right way. And the right way is not just to keep widening roads, because at some point, we're not going to be able to do that. And unless we figure out another system now, someone else is going to have this problem later.
You've persuaded me that these are serious problems, but I don't have the sense, oh, I know what we can do. Yeah, Commissioner Kruse has got the answer.
Okay,
I'm not trying to be nasty now.
No, well, you're the nicest person to me today. If I knew the exact right answer on how to fix our traffic, I would have so much money I wouldn't be standing here right now, okay? There is no right answer, because every town in the state of Florida, every town in Texas, go up to Atlanta, go to New York, where they just passed the congestion tax just to cut cars out of it. Nobody's ever figured out traffic. Like I said, look at Los Angeles, look how wide their highways are. They're still full. I don't have the right answer. I don't think there is a right. There's no silver bullet, otherwise somebody smarter than me would have figured this out already, and we would just be doing what they did. And then we'd all be like, man, our traffic's great, because some guy in Melbourne figured this out, and we're just gonna copy them. I'll copy everybody. I do it all the time. I find out what other counties are doing, and if it makes sense, I do it here. I've yet to see an actual solution to traffic other than suck it up. But as an elected official, my answer to you is not suck it up. I kind of said that in The Observer, and I got screamed at. I said, this is your new life now. I was being sarcastic, but sarcasm doesn't come out in print. But yeah, I don't have the right answer, but I feel like I have the wrong answer. And I think the wrong answer is to endlessly believe that your county government, whichever form it takes for the next 5, 10, 20 years, is inevitably always going to have enough money and enough land to keep widening roads, and that is the only solution. At some point, someone has to come up with something else. Like, you can complain there's no shade today, but if you plant a tree today, there's gonna be shade in 20 years. But you can't say, no, well, give me shade now. I don't have the capacity to give you shade now, but I have capacity to give your kids shade down the road if somebody just says, I wanna spend money on these little trees to make big trees. I don't believe widening roads endlessly is the solution in the long term. And I don't do anything. Like the trail. I know this trail isn't gonna get built along here, but I don't care whether it's built along here. I care whether it's built eventually, and then I'll be happy. So I think there needs to be a better solution. I'm just trying to come up with other solutions and hope maybe that shakes somebody out to come up with an even better solution than I came up with, and I'll give them all the credit to do that. So.
Let me ask this, maybe related to this issue. Many people that I talk to that live here, particularly out in Parish, feel like the development generally is just too fast. Everybody understands people want to move here, and there's no problem with that, but it does seem, particularly out Rye Road out that way, that it's just really just not out of control, but just too fast. And I'm just wondering, what do you guys think is the likely growth projection for our area? Because everybody I know seems to feel like we understand growth, but this is really just.
Sure. We hit an unexpected growth spurt after 2020 because everybody moved to Florida.
I did.
We went, when I ran my first time in 2020, we were around 7,000 to 8,000 people per year moving here. A couple years before that, it was like 4,000 to 5,000. Now it is, in the past 2 years, we've had 25,000 people move here.
A year or?
No, in the past 2 years.
Okay.
So, but I'm just saying, when I ran 2020, it was approximately 8,000. Now it's approximately about 12,500. That's a 50% increase in the number of people that are moving here in the short one term I've been here. That's tough for anybody to handle. We're by far not I think we're the 16th fastest growing county in the state. It's not like we're like an anomaly. I mean, there's 15 other counties growing faster at a faster percent growth than we are. That are having a hard time dealing with it. Pasco is growing extremely fast. Polk County is growing insanely fast. Everyone's dealing with this. So there's a lot of growing pains to deal with. And we're running into a two-tiered problem, especially with inflation. One side, you've got a ton of people moving here, which is massively increasing demand. The other side, between inflation and wage stagnation, there's a serious issue in terms of affordability. And when you have a supply-demand imbalance on one side, then you complain that nothing's affordable. It's like, you're right, there's no straight fix to that. We're trying a little on some things, with ADU. ADUs passed in 2021. We just modified it to allow for larger ADUs in hopes that that spurs more people on. We only had maybe 20 something of them built in like 3 years. Now you build larger, it makes it a little more economical to do so. I'm pushing for modifications in terms of minimum lot sizes and some other regulations that are just unnecessary. If we could start getting people to build housing in infill, simple locations, like minimum lot sizes. I just kind of went after my staff. It's not their fault, and I didn't go after them, bad choice of words, but it was in a meeting. We had a family, here's an example. We had a family who cobbled together and saved money and bought a parcel of land. And I'm not saying a parcel of land in Country Club, but a parcel of land next to Tropicana. It was like 7,000 square feet of land. Due to our code, they had to spend a year rezoning that land so they can use their own money to build their own house on that, because the minimum lot size for that zone was 7,500 square feet. That's insane. So what would normal people do? They would just go buy something way out on Warnside someplace, or up in Parish someplace. They're not gonna go through that headache. But if we can get rid of the minimum lot sizes, we have, I would guess, over 1,000 non-conforming lots that are county-owned surplus that we just sit on because you can't do anything with them. But if someone can take a 1,500 square foot lot and put a 500 square foot tiny home on there, those things are scattered everywhere. They're in every part of this county, in every district, you got these little things. So individually, none of those homes are gonna have any impact on anyone's life. Like if I approve a 200 unit apartment complex, that's putting 400 cars on the road right there. If I approve 200 smaller homes on non-conforming lots scattered throughout this county, it's not gonna affect schools, it's not gonna affect traffic, it's not gonna affect anything because it's too insignificant on a one-off basis, but you get the same amount of housing. If you can get all those approved, that requires less development further and further out east. It creates incentive for people to be closer to their employment center and not have to travel. And that starts slowing down some of that construction because of demand. The second thing, and this is what I've been pushing for, you can't stop them from building if they have the property rights to do so, but you can make it uncomfortable for them to build. And then they have to make tough decisions. Historically, in the past 8 to 10 years, this board's made it very, very comfortable to build further and further out east. We've allowed them to jump the FDAB line. We've made it very inexpensive from an impact fee standpoint, been very accommodating with stipulations to make modifications to our code, giving people free density. It's been very easy, and nobody's going to voluntarily, no developer is gonna voluntarily go through the cost and the headache of an infill development if they can have a flat pasture someplace and get everything they want in their wish list to be able to build out there. And then the county comes running around with your money and says, let me build some roads and slap some pipes in there for water for you, sir. Like, that's why they're building out there, because they can. They're not stupid. They're here for profit. And if you can make more profit with less effort, you're going to. That's why we need to get rid of 2128, because you can't keep letting people build further out east. You need to stop charging percentages of impact fees, because impact fees are supposed to be calculated dollar for dollar what the impact on our infrastructure is, and we have to fix the infrastructure. I'm not just talking about roads. I'm talking about infrastructure like sidewalks, libraries, parks, public safety, EMS stations, water capacity. We need to charge 100% of that. That's going to make it more expensive to build. That's going to slow down some of their building, because eventually they're going to tip over on an economic standpoint.
You mean
but I'm not trying to gouge them to a point of forcing them to stop building. I just want them to pay what they're actually supposed to pay.
You mean,
no more, no
you mean
less.
they would pay 100% of the impact fees?
Yes. I've been pushing for that since 2021. I clearly did not have a board that agreed with me. Now I do. We're starting the process. Our target timeline that was just presented to us is the 100% of impact fees would start getting charged by September of this year. Like, we've already started the process. We've already hired the consultant to update the report to start that process.
Now, is it possible that a builder who got a good deal 2 years ago could then come back and say, well, you're not treating me fairly because somebody else got a 50% deal and now you're making me pay 100%? In other words, if you...
No, they can't do that. You pay impact fees based upon the date you pull your permits. They're allowed to be changed. We have to give a 90-day window per state statute. So in theory, once they become effective in terms of increasing them, developers could all come piling into our building and pull their permits in the next 90 days. But that's always going to be a risk at any point. That's state statute that requires us. But my point is, if you take away all the incentives we're currently giving them with mixed use density bonuses, all these other ridiculous bonuses that encourage more density in places where it shouldn't be, and instead you give even more incentives in infill locations, along our major corridors on 14th and 15th and 26th and so forth, and encourage that, it starts becoming more economical to build where we want them to, and less economical to build where we do not want them to. And if you charge them what it costs, and again, this isn't like extorting money. We have a report that says they're supposed to pay, let's use round numbers, they're supposed to pay $25,000 a house because they cause $25,000 per house in impact. We've only been charging them $10,000, meaning the other 15 comes from you. Or it comes from not building the road in the first place because we're short $15,000. But if you charge them 25, that's just what it is. That's how free market works. You pay what it costs. That's going to slow things down if the costs start going up and they actually have to pay their share. If we get rid of impact fee credits, which nobody's ever brought up, I brought it up last week, and at least one engineer called me and asked me if I was serious. And he wasn't thrilled when he asked me that question. But that's important. I think if you get rid of impact fee credits, I think that's going to have a meaningful impact on future development. And if you guys don't know, impact fee credits right now, part of our problem with impact fees is lack of collection. The other problem we have with impact fees is no one ever pays them, ever. Because someone goes to build a property and then says, hey, because of all these people that are gonna move into my property, I need to build this 4-lane road here, I need this intersection changed, I need this done. I'll use an example, and I'm not throwing them under the bus, it's just the most logical example. North River Ranch, there's a lot of houses going in up there. The impact fee should have been fairly large up there for the number of houses, but they needed Fort Hamer Road to continue all the way up through past Erie and all the way up to Buckeye through their property. Fort Hamer would never have needed to be extended up there if it wasn't for North River Ranch in the first place, but that's a county road. So the developer said, you know what, we will build this road for you. In fact, we're gonna build it 4 lanes and put a landscape median, it's gonna be beautiful testimony of Manatee County. By Florida statute, since we have impact fee credits, they built it. But you're like, hey, thank you. They send us a bill, and then we pay them by deducting it off of the impact fees they're supposed to pay. But the fallacy with all that is, because we're not collecting full impact fees, we're only collecting, call it $3 million a lane mile from them, but we have to pay them dollar for dollar their actual expense of the $8.5 million. So we end up giving them all their impact fees back to build a road that's mainly being built because they need the road. But guess what? The people who are on Erie and on Canal and on all these other roads that have been patiently waiting, in some cases for decades, saying, when is it my turn to get a 4-lane road? When do my kids get a sidewalk to walk to school? I'm like, as soon as I get impact fees, you're next. But guess what? I never get impact fees. Because they keep spending the impact fees on their own infrastructure and then saying, look at me, look, public-private partnership, I built this road for the county. But now I can't, as a county commissioner or as staff at Public Works, determine what's actually the most important road to fix. What's the actual priority? And all they're doing is fixing their own area, which therefore increases the value of their homes, because those homes are on 4-lane nice roads with landscape medians. No one's gonna buy a house off of Canal where it's a death trap driving down that road when you can live on a nice, beautiful, winding Fort Hammer. Like, so that's a problem. And so I proposed last week, why don't we just get rid of that? They just tell all the developers, regardless of what impact fees are, just, no, just give me the money and I will figure out what's the most important use for this. So you, the developer, have to build your own 2-lane road because you need that for your people to get out. I'm not gonna allow you to widen it for 4 lanes. I'm not gonna allow you to put 10-foot sidewalks, and I'm not gonna allow you to landscape this whole thing with these impact fees. You just give me the money. And if your road happens to be the highest priority, then we'll fix that. But it won't be, I promise, because I got a lot of people who've been living here for a long time, waiting patiently. They're my priority. And until I start fixing their stuff, now you get your turn of living on the 4-lane road without the sidewalks, and without the park, and with the smaller library, until everyone else gets caught up, because you have to take your turn too. You do not get, and we're seeing this all over. We're seeing this as we go to some properties out east of the FDAB, where staff's already said, well, you know, they're only required to put in a 2-lane road, but we're gonna widen it to 4 lanes, they're gonna put impact fees. Or a better example, because I hate this project, I should have said it on video. Whatever, they know I do, I voted against it. There's a project going in right across the street from the ice rink in Ellenton. It's right up by 75, down 29th, like tucked up there in a bunch of wetlands and stuff. That project will never work. That road is not even conforming for driving to the ice rink, much less a couple of 100 townhomes. So staff's like, this will only even conceivably work if this road gets widened and that sidewalk gets fixed, and we need a lit intersection at 60 to make this work. And they're like, all right, we will sign a development agreement and we will fix all this stuff up for you. And then you just give me back my impact fees because I'm gonna fix all this stuff. But they're like, we don't need any of this stuff unless you build that. All this stuff is only because you're building that. And now you're gonna fix this up for your own sole use, and the only people who are gonna benefit from all this is you, and now I don't get your impact fees. This is why development is going crazy. This is why growth is out of control, because it's been too easy to build, and they've been coddled way too much. Now, I'm not trying to stop it. I know people talk about things, and someone's gonna ask me a question about a moratorium. I'm not trying to stop anyone from doing anything. I just want people to do things the right way, and ideally in the right place. And I think if you charge them the right amount and give them incentives to build where you want them to build it, and you don't keep bending over backwards and giving them free density and free, setback restriction, all these changes, everything they want in life, and let them use their impact fees for their own personal benefit. If you take all that away, you're gonna slow down growth, because it's not gonna be as beneficial to them to build where they are building, and they'll start looking where they should be building.
But 26
I'll
of course.
hold a second.
I'm trying to follow this vision,
Sure,
more development to the center of the city.
yes.
Where on 14th would you build something that's worth the trouble of the developer actually doing a bunch of engineering Sure.
I'm not a developer, I don't have the exact answer for you, but in the current state, you're right, you're not, because right now, a lot of our code is antiquated, and only allows 2 or 3 story and very small FAR, it's not economical to do so. But I would argue, there's a couple of projects going in that urban core area. You got Riverview 6, you've got Astoria, you got 2 projects from Lincoln. These are affordable housing projects. These are places charging little, yet they somehow magically found a way to make this economically work. But these 4, how about the Met? That's on 14, that's 199 units, right across from the shuffleboard courts or wherever those things are. 199 units, 100% affordable, with no subsidies. He didn't use tax credits or anything, yet he figured out how to make a 200-unit apartment complex for workforce housing that's walking distance to downtown work on workforce housing rents. So you can't tell me that it's not, that people can't possibly figure out engineering-wise how to make this work. It's a matter of making sure that you get the proper density and the proper height to allow people and incentivize people to build where you want them to build. And you can't just say, well, I don't want height here, but don't build there and don't do this. You can't, you can squeeze a balloon in one place, it's just gonna expand. At some point, something has to give. You can't just say every place in Manatee County forever has to be a 2-story building, and you can't put retail under residential. Like, we're not a 100,000 person town like we used to be. We're a 500,000 person town. At some point, somebody has to realize that. And either we can start sensibly developing the right way, or something's going to burst. And right now, what you've seen in the past 10 years, what's burst is all of our ag land. Because we didn't let anyone build up and use air rights and take advantage of the heights and densities that a traditional urban core would have. So they went out, and I'll use as an example, Pinellas County, which is almost an example of how not to do things. Pinellas County has there's not a single developable lot in the entirety of Pinellas County. They built everything. It's gone. Like, there's not 1 square foot of green space in all Pinellas County. They ran out of space. It's almost entirely, if you go all the way out to Pinellas Park and up by, over by their intercoastal, it's all single story, it's mostly mobile home, it's small things to cover, because they just built the whole thing out with underutilized lots. And once you lose the land, you lose it forever. So what did they eventually have to do? Because people kept wanting to live there, and big companies wanting to move there. Raymond James came in, and Valley Pack moved in, and Home Shopping Neighborhood. That's when they finally gave up, and City of St. Pete, a separate municipality, said, go do it. They literally just took away all their zoning and said, do what you want. Well, we need space here. And now, first off, downtown St. Pete is awesome. I love it. But if you try to build downtown St. Pete here, I got people picketing out in front of my building right now. But it's beautiful. It's vibrant. There's art and murals everywhere. But it's high buildings. But there's a place for everything, and good communities have a little of everything. You've got the single family developments in Fort Lauderdale, and you got Los Olas in Fort Lauderdale. Here, we've somehow come up with some theory that all of Manatee County should be the exact same height, the exact same look, and everything should be the exact same. Nothing can ever change ever, because my great grandma who went to Manatee High School lived in a 1-story place, and therefore everything has to be 1 story forever. At some point, you'll get people to build on 14 and all these other places. I mean, you got DeSoto Square Mall that eventually will be redeveloped when they figure out what to do. By just telling somebody, hey, you don't have to just build 2 or 3 stories. Maybe we can use your air, and now you can amortize the cost of that land and the engineering headache of figuring out how to parcel all these together. Because now you can build 10 stories. Look at downtown Bradenton. They just put an overlay on where they're effectively like 18 stories as of right for all of downtown Bradenton now.
Sarasota.
No, downtown Bradenton. Downtown Bradenton, Gene put in middle of last year maybe, that I think they called it 2 different things. Sarasota has 3 different things. There's T6 right down the core, and that's in theory up to 21 stories. That includes parking, and if you have like affordable housing bonuses to it. And then the fringes of it that go kind of where like Central Cafe is and down to like 13th, that's T5 on the overlay. It's a 5-year overlay. It's not permanent zoning change. You have 5 years to do something with it. And that's, I think it's 16 stories, you can go 18, and the main core is 18, you can go 21. But you start getting that done, now, if you buy a parcel of land, it costs $1 million for the parcel, but you can amortize it over a couple hundred units, that makes more sense. The problem with downtown Bradenton right now is traffic is horrendous, and there's no solution to the infrastructure downtown Bradenton unless you can get a flyover across that bridge and keep people from driving through downtown Bradenton.
Is there, you've got some terrific ideas, your vision sounds good. You're one of 7 people on the commission. Politically, how much of this can really happen?
Depends on what part you're talking about. The last part I talked about, it doesn't matter if I have 1 person or 7 people or 70 people on my board. The city of Bradenton's an independent chartered municipality, so they can do whatever they want, whether I want them to or not. I can plead with Gene and Lisa and Jade, like, please do, but I have no control over it. And that's part of the thing with Manatee County. The areas that you would think are more amenable to larger scale development, to discourage sprawl development, are controlled by municipalities that are not unincorporated Manatee. So the pieces that I control that are developable are what you see further and further out east and further north. The places like downtown, I hate to call it downtown Palmetto, but in theory, at some point in time, downtown Palmetto and downtown Bradenton, they're controlled by independent municipalities. Downtown Bradenton is very proactive in trying to make this happen. We're also working on City Park, which is up by Lecom and with a full streetscape. So you can connect from Lecom all the way to downtown, so you don't have this dark desert that you're afraid to walk through. I mean, you can't go downtown and then go to like Village of the Arts, because once you hit Sun Insurance, like, that's a sketchy little area to walk. But if you can connect it and make it vibrant from 17th all the way to the water, where people can walk through, have dinner downtown and then walk to Village Arts to look at some art galleries and then go over to Motorworks and then head out to a concert at the Lecom shop. Now you're starting to get something vibrant. Now you start getting some more shops and coffee shops and pizza places and restaurants, and now residential starts moving in around there. That's how you build. And that's what St. Pete did. St. Pete, I lived there in the late 90s for a couple of years. I worked at Raymond James. Central was the only road there. You had Central, and then you had like the Dolly Museum over by the marina. That was it. Otherwise, if you stuck 1 foot off of any of those, you're just gonna get stabbed. Like, I remember when the Rays started in '98, you would park and like run to the city. But now you're not scared at all. I mean, now it's good. But they took that one little road in late 90s, 20 years ago, and turned it into what you see now in 2 decades. Because they were just proactive in how they were doing it. They made it vibrant, they made it open and welcoming for people to do things. But that's also helped them, where the rest of Pinellas County is still these smaller single family and homes and the duplexes and the 1 and 2 stories, because they concentrated in someplace. That's a way to handle it. Right now, we haven't concentrated anywhere. So now we're just scattershot. Aqua by the Bay over on the water there, and you got North River Ranch, and then you got Lake. There's no forethought in terms of how we're gonna grow. The simple answer, everyone just says, don't grow. But, okay. But let's just start with the fact that that's not a controllable thing, and maybe we can more creatively come up with a solution for growth instead of just blindly saying, let's build a wall.
But isn't that what the comprehensive plan is supposed to essentially be, a vision for?
But no, again, see, I knew you were gonna say that's my no place in my comprehensive plan does it have anything about people moving here.
No.
My comprehensive plan does not include specs for a wall. I do not have any authority. Like, what people are going to, I didn't anticipate 12,000 people. I certainly don't think, and maybe you all disagree, and this is like, the most perfect utopian place for you, but I don't think we're putting out a red carpet begging 12,000 people to move here. We haven't had any meaningful new employment centers move into Manatee County that would attract people. Everything else has been the same as it has. Anna Maria has been the same. Everything else has been the same. More people are moving here because more people are moving to Florida, and we're getting our proportional share of it. And your options are to just make everything substantially more expensive because the supply demand is so out of whack, and we become a bedroom community, and we shuffle everyone else out, including the baristas for your coffee and the teachers for your kids, and make them commute all the way in or start shutting down coffee shops because you can't find anyone to work. Like you see in like Naples, a Or we start figuring out a solution, but nobody ever wants to come up with a solution. Their solution is don't let people move here and just don't build anything else and it'll all work itself out, but it never always works itself out because 12,000 more people are gonna move here next year. Even if I go out on the side of the I-75 with a sign saying, please don't move here, they're going to come here.
Well, that's not what I'm saying. I'm saying the comprehensive plan, as far as I understand it, is like supposed to be a visionary
Yeah.
document. So it's like, so when I went to whatever, Envision Manatee, you go to the transportation guide and it's like, and you write down things like, oh, well, what do you think it should look like in 20 years? Okay, let's look forward in 20 years.
What did you write it should look like in 20 years?
I think that we should have some east-west corridors that might include a method of transportation that we're not even thinking about. The things that Republicans hate, trains. You know, like it's like, at what point do you use a train to get people off the road? I mean, because there's.
Where?
I'm just saying. I'm just like maybe. I mean, you got the big one is like whatever Cortez or 44th. That would be like a big one that would go east-west and take people in theory off the road. It's like at what point do you consider that? You know, it's like if we continue to build around cars and you complained about building around cars. Okay, well.
But no, you're changing this.
No. I'm just. No, just,
I want to know where you want things to be built. Or do you want to not build anything and then let the supply demand take care of itself based on current? You said 20 years now. I'm asking you. This is a different question.
I was looking at it and it's like,
What did you
okay,
write?
I was looking at what they had and it's like, okay, like 70 was one of them. That was potentially this long road that crosses the whole county. You know, it's like, okay, 44th might be one of them. 64 might be one of this east-west, thoroughfares. Or maybe,
Okay, I get it. You're avoiding the question.
I'm not trying to avoid anything.
I asked you where you would build things, and you keep going back to building a monorail. I'm not asking how to get people from one side to the other. I'm asking you a question of where you said an envision thing and a comprehensive plan sets a vision for growth. So I'm asking you where you would envision the growth to be in Manatee County.
Well, if we want infill, right? Understanding that, well, hell, look, right here, we've got like 6,500 homes coming on top of whatever's already here. So this side, if we're building on here and avoiding building past the FDAB, it has to be, on this side of the town to concentrate people being here and trying to take them off the road, but still being conscious of the fact that we have a lot of shared amenities between east and west that we want people to actually use.
Okay. And again, that, so your vision is similar to my vision, which we discussed. We need to incentivize people to build here instead of there. And incentivizing them isn't just saying, please build here, it's giving them incentives, and that includes density, that includes incentives relative to height. Things along those lines. You have to make it economical to do so.
Sure.
Or you have to just hand them money to do so, and that's what happens with that's why there's so much affordable housing. We're not handing them the money per se, but LIHTC credits from the federal government and sale funds from the state. That's how the affordable housing gets incentivized to build near the urban core. We're not going to take all of your tax money and just start bribing people to build. So we can do it without using any of your tax money by just saying, hey, right now you can only build 4 stories here and it has to be all residential. We'll let you build 10 stories and you can put retail on the ground floor because that way people living there can go down to a little urban Publix and a coffee shop and a dry cleaner on the ground floor and live above it. That's what I'm pushing for. And I think that's what the majority of this board agrees with. It's just a matter of, and that's why as you know, we are working to update/rewrite the comprehensive plan right now to change the vision of it and do so by structuring incentives in the proper way. Look at the thoroughfare map to make sure that some of these roads are being properly accounted for on that map. So people aren't expecting 6-lane roads out someplace where we have no intention of building 6-lane roads. Whereas we're trying to incentivize people to build on roads that thoroughfare map may not anticipate widening. So there's a lot of components to this that need to be done, and February 19th, we're having a work session, which is going to be all about that comprehensive. That'll be the first time that you're really gonna hear, especially from the 3 new commissioners outside of the campaign trail. This is the first time where they're really gonna be sitting there with their impressions and views of the FDAB line and things like that. We've been talking one-off on things like impact fees. But that session, you'll start getting a better, clearer picture of where their mindset is.
When, I know that the contractor is supposed to have another, at least one more round of public meetings for public input. But when is that actually going to meaningfully create something for us to
It
work
was
with?
going to meaningfully create something October 2024. August 20th, 2024, the public decided they didn't like a vast majority of our current board, who were setting the tone and the vision for that report that was going to come out in draft. It was not going to be finalized and voted on before November 2024, when a new board would have come in and just voted it down. So instead, from an economic standpoint, and just because it was silly, the decision was to put the brakes on it until the new board that was requested and voted on by the public were seated. Now, we have to ramp up that new board so they understand even what they're going to be looking at, which I feel we've done pretty efficiently, because they just got in the end of November, and this February, they're sitting down to discuss it. Once the consultants and staff can hear this new board's vision about what they want to see, that's gonna ramp up in earnest again. It got delayed because of the result of the election. If it wasn't for that turnover, it would be done by now, and it would have already been voted on. But that turnover is so dramatic that it materially changed the direction of that comprehensive plan rewrite. That's why it got delayed.
Okay,
Yeah.
Right,
And-
yes.
Yeah. Go ahead. Wait 1 second.
Too much. Do you find affordable? Because anything under $1,000 a month for somebody on Social Security, it's not affordable. Trust me. Well, anything under $500 a month isn't affordable. And number two, you're talking height. I know what Manatee can to turn into another boat. I don't want us to turn into another Sarasota, where it's 20-story condo after 20-story condo after 20-story condo, which nobody in this area is gonna be able to afford those. So it's gonna be somebody from out of state who's going to buy those for $500 million and put twice as much traffic on roads. And that's the problem with them tearing down City Hall and putting in a 20-story downtown Bradenton, and the same with Central. So 14th Street, 26th Street built out. Where are you gonna put homes on either one of them?
I'm gonna knock that stuff down and put something else there.
But these are my.
That's what redevelopment is. I mean, to make an argument that 14th Street is built out because there's a shuffleball court that 2, maybe 3 people use every month, and therefore it's built out, you have to look at highest and best use of your available land. And again, if my option is to approve somebody building a huge subdivision on Verna, or knock down a shuffleball court, which again, that's not even my call, that's City of Bradenton, I'm using it as an example, then that's what redevelopment is. I mean, you look at Riverview 6. Riverview 6 is on top of, and it's all affordable, that's affordable, right? That goes down from 30% AMI up to 80% AMI using 9% tax credits. That is on land that just 18 months ago was a car service station, an empty office building, an old like quadplex complex that was probably condemned. That was stuff. You could have made the argument that's built out. Somebody's already called that land. Nobody could ever use it for something more efficient ever again. But HTG came in, bought it, knocked all that stuff down, put together 6 different parcels. It took them a long time to get 6 different sellers to agree. And now they're building 96, 98, all low, you know, not low income, I guess low income, units from 30% to 80%, walking dish downtown, retail on the ground floor, being leased by NDC arena. That was built out. That's what redevelopment is. Redevelopment, like, the assumption that whoever builds something first, now called dibs on it for eternity, is wrong. 14th Street has old motels that still advertise that they have color TV. Like, those do not need to be there. At any point in time, those things need to be there. Like, if you could rent a room in your motel by the hour, we need to knock down that motel and put something else there that's better utilized by the community. And if you put more stuff down there where people can walk, you know, with the wait staff at O'Bricks, the people serving coffee down at Orange Blossom, the people work for my county, your county. I mean, there are people that can't afford it. We have a lot of people who work at the county that do not live in Manatee County because they cannot afford to live in Manatee County. If they lived in the Met, they lived in Riverview 6, they lived in Astoria, some of them probably will. They can just walk 2 miles, they don't have to get in a car. But that requires redevelopment and a realization that there's a higher and better use for a lot of this land. And if the alternative is the higher and better use of farming land or putting houses on land, or the higher and better use of an old motel or a nice apartment complex that can house people, I'd rather knock down the motel than take over the farmland, all things being considered. And the option is not presently neither. It's either or, and I'd rather take this option closer to downtown, closer to the urban core, and the redevelopment, the vibrancy of the community for the long run, than to keep going further and further east, because that's never gonna stop, because everyone's just gonna keep saying, well, you let that person do it, now let me do it. Now you let that person do it, now let me do it, until you get to Mayaca City. That's just what's gonna happen if you don't come up with a better system at some point in time, because that is what's been happening. Like, I remember when Lake Ranch didn't exist. My grandmother moved into it in like the 90s, like, what are you doing? This is like literally in the middle of nowhere. So you guys all remember, like, if you went right past Country Club entrance, there was a cattle gate right there, like it's right past Country Club. Like, who lives out here? Like 70 was like a dirt road. The only reason you went down 70 was because the Walmart was right there, and then you turned around and went back. But now you wouldn't think that. Things have
That's
grown.
hard to
Things-
picture. For a
It
new
was.
guy, that's hard to picture.
It was though. That's what it was. But that's all changed. And it just is what it is. Things change in life. And all we can do is try to make sure it's changing for the better, but there are things we can control and things we cannot control. The comprehensive plan, the land development code, we can control. It's a matter of how do we control it to best use those documents to come up with the best case scenario for Manatee. And maybe, not maybe, I guarantee a lot of people, the best case scenario is, let's all take head count, like the end of Avengers, 50% of the people move out. You know, someone snap their fingers, 50% out, we're capping at 200,000 people. Some people would say that's the best case scenario, but that's not reality. I have to work on reality. People who aren't elected and aren't doing, they can work in extremes. I have people that come to me saying, taxes should be zero, I'm a libertarian. Okay, in theory, I agree. I'm very libertarian too. I also used to say taxes should be zero until I had a budget in front of me and I had to pay for stuff. Now, that's probably not gonna work. I don't think the sheriff would appreciate the budget cut. There's reality and then there's lofty right now the reality is things are gonna keep growing here. It's how they grow. And I am trying my best to make sure they grow in the most sensible way possible to minimize the impact on the citizens while creating a better future in Manatee County. And the path we've gone on the past 5 years is not the right answer. So we need to try something else. Hold on a second. You had your hand up.
No, you answered it.
Oh, all right. Then you had your hand up.
So you talked about centers of employee centers,
Huh?
and how everybody goes, we're a flyover for Sarasota and whatnot. Has the county done anything to get companies to come into a Bradenton or?
Sure, and we continue to. The EDC handles that, it's not the county per se. I mean, we fund the EDC, they're an extension of government per se, but they're independent, just like Sarasota does the same thing. I would argue we're attracting more than Sarasota is. They were just ahead of us, so we're trying to catch up. If you look in recent past, and by recent I mean 5-10 years, Sun's Insurance came here, Air Products came here, Ally came here, Power Design came here, Amazon came here. We've got JP Morgan and Morgan Stanley, all these companies growing here. If you go down 301, this is down closer to you, you got 301 here, right, Televast and Whitfield. You got all kinds of manufacturing and industrial going in over there. Those are all companies coming in and doing things. And those are high-paying jobs. They hire a lot of people. They're sustainable jobs. They like the fact that we have this massive airport, and we have a CSX trail line coming through here, and we got a seaport here. We've got the bones to attract great companies. It's just a matter of getting them here. And part of the problem I've always argued is it's hard to attract a company when you're a 400,000 person town. It's not sexy to move to a 400,000 person town. Unless you want to, like Sons, like Steve Harry, who owns Sons, wanted to be here. He built Terra Nova horse and everything out there. It's hard to attract big companies as a 400,000 person town, even with all the great stuff we have. And the fact that we're not a very affordable place to live for a 400,000 person town. Which means one of two things. You either have to move all your employees down with your company and tell them there's no place to live, it's not really affordable here. Or you have to hire your workforce when you get here, but we have not been successful in retaining a younger workforce here because they all graduate from their colleges and move to Atlanta and Orlando and St. Pete and get out of here because we haven't given them anything dynamic as a reason to stay. So it's a two-pronged thing we have to work on. My argument has been, and granted I grew up in Sarasota, so I have a relationship with Sarasota, but my argument's been, we need to stop calling ourselves Manatee County and then Sarasota County, and we need to work with that. And I just met with one of their commissioners 2 days ago. We need to start treating ourselves and marketing ourselves to companies as a 1 million person region here, as Sarasota Manatee, or Manatee Sarasota, I don't even care what you call it. Because the reality is, wherever a company moves, 50% of those employees are gonna live in the other county. That's just how it is. Half of the county employees live in Sarasota, the other, it's like, I don't care if a company moves to Sarasota. I'm gonna get a disproportionate share of their employees here. We're gonna spend a disproportionate share of their money here. And I'm gonna get the benefits from it. And they're gonna wanna ship out of my port. And they're gonna fly out of our airport. Like, I don't care where this company goes. But if we go out and tell companies, we're a 1 million person community, like regional community with a 6-figure household income, with the fastest growing airport in the country, the closest deep water seaport to the Panama Canal, and 5 different colleges, now you got something. Now people are attracted to us. Now we're competing with Pinellas and Hillsborough. Unfortunately, Sarasota and Manatee have historically treated themselves as 2 small towns with 2 big fish hanging over us. If we start treating ourselves like a region, we'll start getting the bigger, and I believe we'll start getting ourselves bigger companies. And once you start doing that, you can keep your workforce. That's the other problem. We don't have proper incentives to keep kids here. Like they graduate, we have Ringling, the highest end art school arguably in the country. That thing, people get hired to the FBI and the CIA and all over the place from Ringling. We got New College here, we have USF here, we've got SCF here. We got great here, we have MTC here. They all graduate and leave, because what are they gonna do? Go to one of the 5 restaurants downtown, see some baseball games
But
for
they
a
also
month?
can't afford it.
And they can't afford it, because even a 1-bedroom apartment's $1,800. We need to keep them here. We need to make it more affordable for them to be here. Kids do not need a 1,200 square foot 1-bedroom apartment. They're more than happy in a 400, 500, 600 square foot small place. They live by themselves. We don't want them in their apartment anyway. I want them out and about. Go do something. Go jog. Go out and hang out. Make us look vibrant. But we don't have that. We need to incentivize that. We need to incentivize places where kids want to live, incentivize opportunities that they will enjoy here, music festivals and events to keep them here. And we need to incentivize mentoring these kids at USF, at New College, at Ringling, to give them a sense of community and feel like they've got a network and connection to the area. Once we keep that workforce here, that makes it that much easier to attract companies because they don't have to bring their workforce. We already have a workforce for them. Right now, we have neither. We don't have the affordability for them to move down, and we don't have the workforce for them to rebuild here. So we need to work on it. And once you start bringing those companies, then wages go up, and then it helps with the affordability and stuff. Got a question?
The ECS protects it, thank you very much.
Not even a question? All right,
Mark.
are you sure?
Thank you very much.
What's that?
Very informative.
Okay, thank you. Like your shirt.
2.1.2.8, when can we expect to see it on the agenda?
It'll be discussed on February 19th. I know this is like the most important thing in your life. I've made a motion 3 times to remove this.
You've got the board now to do it.
I do. We're all kind of patiently waiting for February 19th for our work session. It's not, you guys act like, I keep trying to remove it because it was more of a signal to developers, I'm done with your games. It doesn't do anything in real life. 2128 does not give anybody the actual authority to build east of the FDAM as of right. It just gives them the authority to present it and gives the board cover if they want to approve it. There's no vested development rights with 2128. It's just a theoretical proposal. It's legislative when it first comes to us. It could be the best project anyone's ever seen, and we can just say, no, because I don't feel like it. Like, so it's not, it doesn't do anything. This board is never gonna approve anything east of that demo. Whether 2128 is there or not. Yes, I do wanna remove it, because I just wanna nip that in the bud and say, look, this is a show of force that we're not even gonna entertain something, and it will be removed. I have no doubt in my mind. I made the motion 3 times to remove this thing. And Cal, and Bob, and Carol, Commissioners Sadiq, and Phelps, and McCann, all campaigned on removing it. And it's a simple majority vote.
Then do it.
We will, but I'm not just throwing, you guys act like we got nothing better to do but throw stuff on agendas all day.
Oh, no, but it's just, this is
I look,
community priority.
see, I know, but when it's something that the community, which is approximately 20 or 30 people, really want, you guys want us to skirt everything in the way. You want us to throw something on at 5 p.m. the night before a meeting and vote on it.
Oh, no, I don't want that.
You know how many people were jumping up and down happy when we got rid of Joe McClash's fees? That wasn't on the agenda. That got pulled out of a public comment, and we voted on it. The public applauded us, and they wanted to throw a parade, but we were busy. But that wasn't on there. If James Satcher or someone would have thrown something on it at the last minute, you guys would have pitchforks and Bradenton Times would have been like, this board's the worst board ever. They voted on something that wasn't on the agenda. So it's all subjective.
I'm just saying, it could be on the next
I
agenda.
know, but the point is, that we're having a global conversation about the comprehensive plan. It's gonna talk about all kinds of things. We can make a motion right now not to move the FDAM. Then we can make a motion right now to get rid of 2128. Then we can motion next to get rid of the mixed income, or the mixed use density. But one by one, but it's all in the context of everything else.
I get it. Yeah, but
I'm not putting it on the agenda until after the 19th, because I'm trying to honor a process. It serves no purpose. It's a meaningless policy. Yes, I want to get rid of it, if nothing else, but to signal we're getting rid of it, and we will. But I also want to respect the fact I have 3 new board members that are still, well, I'm not going to say they're still figuring out where the light switches are. They know where the light switches are now. I safely say all 3 of them are working very, very hard to get up to speed, like exhaustingly hard. They're all in the office all the time. They're meeting with the directors. I'm very happy with the efforts they've been putting in to get up to speed. But there's a lot. It's really, truly, I know it's a cliche, but they're really drinking from a fire hose with a lot of stuff. Like, they've had whole briefings just on what a plat is, or just on what a stewardship district is, or just as things arise. I want them to get comfortably up to speed before we do things. This one seems to, because the public wants it, but just because the public wants it doesn't mean we skirt all the other things. I'm trying to honor a system and let people get up to speed and not just start throwing stuff on agendas to throw stuff on agendas, because I'm trying to move my own personal stuff. I moved some things at the end of last year, prior to the last election, with the parking garage and the historical sites and all that with the previous board, because I knew I could, but that was a board that knew what I was doing. You know, they were already they had been there for years. It will get removed. There's zero, literally zero. If there's any assurity, if there's any What's the word I'm looking for? If there's any guarantee in anything that's gonna happen with this board in the next couple months, it's 2128 is gonna be removed.
What?
No doubt.
It's too much.
2128 was a policy that was put in a couple of years ago that theoretically gave a path to allow developers to get rezones east of the future area development boundary, future development area boundary, to build in south of the river, which is kind of where more people focus their attention. It's east of Corn Center. And 2 projects were approved through this policy, Taylor Ranch and East River Ranch. North of the river, it kind of jogs all over and it's kind of all muddled up there. The projects that were approved up there were a lot smaller in nature, one of which was just an extension of an existing subdivision. One was asinine in its own right because it was like a couple of acres and should have just been rezoned that way in the first place. And then there was one more substantial one that was approved up there. Nothing's been approved through 2128 since East River Ranch, which was a year and a half ago, 18 months probably was the last time 2128 even came in front of us.
There's
First of all,
some,
there's only so much more you can build with 2128. That's what people are, they literally successfully got to 675. You have to jump 675, unless Commissioner Phelps is under contract to sell our property. Like, you ain't going much further on that side. They've kind of hit a firewall in their own right on that side. The north is a little different because the issue is 62 and 675 have room to run with 2128. But again, unlike some things in the comprehensive plan that give people vested rights for development, and they can come in and say, this adheres to the comprehensive plan, you as the county commission have to honor your comprehensive plan. This language in this policy does not give them the vested rights. All it does is basically give the board subjective rights to approve something, and they can kind of hide behind that umbrella of that policy if they grant it to them. It gives someone a right to ask for it, does not give them a right to receive. So I know the property you're stressing over, and by you, I mean public in general. It hasn't come before us yet. I don't have any more information than what a few people post on Facebook and stuff. It's never, in my mind, that's never happening. I would be surprised if it ever even got to this point, based on the tone of the board. But it will be removed. If someone put it on the agenda, fine, I will vote to remove it, but I'm not proactively putting it on until after the 19th, where I can comfortably feel that this board was given a full briefing and full information of everything from the cover to the index of the comprehensive plan, and then we can start making changes that we all collectively see. And that's just following procedure, not any other reason. It will be removed. And I will look forward to you calling in. Thank us for being removed after we do so.
100%. I even had Judy call me 454 on a Facebook.
Everyone knows the last 3 digits here, but.
Yeah, I know, it's sad.
Almost everything you said tonight was new to me. I mean, logical, I can follow what you're reasoning, but I don't know much about what's happening in county government. I don't know what the county commissioners are facing, what the hot button issues are. So I'm kind of thinking, without making a real project out of it, what would you hope that a citizen would be aware of and pay attention to? Again, without taking a deep dive, but just trying to pay attention to what's going on.
Very broad question. Man, what would I hope you're paying attention to? I spent years hoping people pay attention to everything. My whole campaign was just intentionally trying to educate people. I've been on the Brain Times podcast, I think 4 times, trying to educate people. I believe our entire community is better when more people know what's going on. So I don't have one thing per se. I try to, really, that's why I have town halls every month. That's why I open it up to any topic, from bridges to fires to development to you name it, because I want people to be informed in whatever capacity they feel. I write a Substack a fair bit, sometimes more, sometimes less, and try to get information out. The hot button on this board, as you can probably guess, is development related right now. There's lots of traffic, there's lots of development. A lot of it is we're trying to catch things as they go. Last year it was dust clouds, like things just pop up. Dust clouds were a big thing last year. And then we made a bunch of changes to that because people were clear cutting land. Right now it's stormwater and flooding, and we're dealing with that. Different things pop up, but historically, in any growing county, development and traffic are gonna be the two big things that we face headwinds on. We also all try to make sure we're moving other things forward. If I wanted to go down a rabbit hole of dealing with development and traffic, it's all I would do for 4 years. Like that. Why would I want this job to just focus on that for 4 years? That's why I focus on trails. I focus on affordable housing. I focus a lot on animal welfare and getting our shelter expanded. Other commissioners focus on boat ramps and parks, and Commissioner Ballard focuses on figuring out things with the opioid crisis and homelessness, and everyone kind of has their thing. Commissioner Beard with veterans. Everyone kind of has their thing that kind of keeps them sane while we're dealing with the development and growth. It's just a matter of, we're not assigned anything, it's just organically what your skill set was, your experience was, that bring things up. But I would say if you want to stay informed, one, I think my Substack's halfway decent. That's just commissionerkruse.substack.com. I have business cards. If you want to email me, I'll send you the link. Bradenton Times and the Observer, the two legitimate news sources here. They both do a good job of keeping people up to date with what's going on with county government and the county as a whole. And then our meetings. Now our meetings they've always been on YouTube, but now our meetings are on Facebook Live with comments, so people can sit there and chat during it. Our meetings are open to the public, and now I've added a second public comment period. So there's not just public comment at the beginning, there's also public comment at the end. We also reinstated call-in comments, as Shirley's well aware. So for any agenda item, you can call in, because right on the agenda has the number and the passcode, and you can speak on any item we're talking about as we're talking about it. These past 4 months, 3 months, we've been putting a big effort into re-engaging the public back into what we're doing and trying to get the information out to the public, make things more accessible. We've expanded the aids, like Dana's My Aid, so everyone now has an aid, so we're gonna start having off-site office hours at libraries and other places, so you don't have to come all the way downtown to come meet your commissioner or a representative. You can come out and see us at various libraries, town halls, things like that. So we're doing what we can to inform the public. At least I'm doing what I can to inform the public as much as possible. And if there's something you feel is lacking, you just let me know and I'll see what I can do about fixing that too.
Are other commissioners having town halls or whatever?
Historically, no. Some commissioners, if they're district commissioners, have done private town halls, like with HOAs. Like Commissioner Turner out in District 5 and Commissioner Bob in District 5. We're pretty good about going to individual HOAs and meeting with people, but not open forum kind of settings. Commissioner Bearden did a couple of them and then stopped, same with Commissioner Ballard because she had a baby. I think this year you're gonna start seeing them ramp up more because, again, I've been doing them since 2022. And people see that the public's responsive to it. Commissioner Phelps up in District 1 just announced her first one, January 26th.
4th, it's Friday.
24th.
Friday, 24th.
Yeah, so she's having her first one. I mean, she just got on the board end of November, so this is honestly pretty quick. So she's having her first one. Commissioner Sadiq, who's District 3, took over Kevin's seat. He's already scheduling a couple of them and planning a few out. I think at GT Bray and Nama. So you're going to start seeing it. I know Commissioner Ballard was talking about doing it maybe quarterly. She's got 3 little kids. She's doing 2. I think she's going to do it quarterly. But again, a lot of the district people also go out to their HOAs and stuff, and as do I. I'm speaking at Colony Cove in a couple weeks. I'm speaking at Farm Bureau in a couple weeks. But they're more focused on their individual neighborhoods. Myself and Commissioner Beard are at large, so for me, it's just always been easier for the last couple of years, there's a library in every district. So every month I'm just at a different library to allow people, anyone can come, but it puts it close to people. It's just a matter of when I show up at your library. But again, if you think there's a way we can get you information more efficiently, then by all means, let me know. Social media has been ramping up pretty good in terms of the counties. Now, occasionally they even post a picture of me in it.
Yeah, I saw the one at the airport. That was good.
Yeah.
Nice, Terminal A.
The last couple of years, the
Yeah.
chairs have refused to allow me to be in a picture. I was even the MC at a ribbon cutting for the Lake Ranch Library, and somehow during the ribbon cutting, they found a way to crop me out of the picture.
Yeah.
Well, thank God that's over.
Yes, there was a picture of me in front of an airplane yesterday.
Yes. Yay.
Actually, it might be better off not being instantly recognized in public.
That's,
Might make-
that ship has sailed a long time ago. Any other questions?
I know a lot of the nice bit about the eastern side of the county, what's the future around like Cortez and Pamasola to like future resiliency where there's not one small storm and the entire thing floods now for 3 months there's a pipe there.
Sure. Well, I would argue two things, that they're two separate. I don't think this is all about the east side, because I think part of the discussion was whether or not too much is going on the east side and things need to be redirected more towards the west
Oh,
side.
so-
And admittedly central, but still. Relative to your specific one, I was literally at Cortez every single day for like 2 months straight. Half the time working out of Slickers when I wasn't even open, just as a home base. Because Sunny Shores had so much going on with them, I was at Sunny Shores all the time, out with Karen Bell and everybody out in the Cortez Village. There's a lot that needs to be considered. The issue with, when you get to the west side, not just down here, but even if you go way far north, like Rivonia, people don't want things to change. And that's hard for us. Like Rivonia is very difficult to deal with because it's below sea level. There's no easy fix. We put a bunch of sewer systems in there, but every time there's a major storm, it's flooded. But that's where they want to be. And you got neighborhoods like that. You got Elwood Park, you got Televast, you've got Cortez, you have Mayaca City. This is where they want to be. They don't want change. And I've tried to honor that my entire board. I voted no on every project that's ever come into Cortez. I voted no on every project that's gone to Elwood Park. Like I've consistently tried to keep character because I think good communities, much like different height, different everything, I think good communities have dynamic different neighborhoods that you don't just drive past from one stucco house with Spanish tile to the other as far as the eye can see. There has to be some diversity to anything. That's why I love Village of the Arts. Because you got big buildings here, you got Village of the Arts here, and then you got a baseball field. It's unique, it's great. So we need to fix that. Cortez and Sunny Shores and all that. I mean, this was kind of a unique, extreme storm. That said, we seem to have a 100-year storm once a year now. So something has to be fixed. I don't know what the immediate answer is. Those areas are kind of what they are. I mean, if you made the argument that Elcon got flooded, then I'd say, well, you maybe should have knocked all those mangroves down. But that wasn't the case. You go down Pamasola, there's mangroves all the way on that side of the thing. I mean, that's a natural barrier right there, and it still got flooded there. What we as a county are trying to work on, not trying, what we're going to work on, and we're putting money towards it and effort towards it, is coming up with best practices to fix that. We've been proactively looking at already this fast at land, trying to purchase land to build reservoirs in areas where we can catch water, to try to redirect it from some of these areas that are more heavily impacted by flooding, and create more stormwater retention areas that just effectively be dry reservoirs that have the capacity to fill up. We're working on fixing piping systems. We're working with City of Bradenton to fix some of their deficiencies, which I'm not speaking out of turn. Gene Brown just mentioned it at lunch today. They know their deficiencies. To work with them to prevent them from having their overflows and pollution associated with their systems. We're working on pumping systems for places like Sylvan Oaks and Center Lake. So we are proactively acknowledging things that we have been lacking, especially in West Bradenton, because again, don't forget, back in the day, the only engineering solution people thought of was, this person's property's here, so I'm gonna build my property here, and that's gonna help my flooding, and then this person's like, I'm gonna build my property here, because that's just how things were done. Or they didn't pay attention. Look at the Soto Square Mall. It's literally built in a bowl. Like, who thought this was a good idea? Like, dig deep and then pave it. But somebody at some point in the 50s was like, this is a good engineering idea. It makes no sense. Things have to be fixed. In a perfect world, with unlimited money, we'd start ripping up a lot of our roads and stuff, obviously, because nowadays, not cheap, but you can put pervious surface down for road width. We did that, you want to see a perfect example of, I mean, if I had unlimited money, I'd do that for all roads. That would solve a lot of problems. Look at Coquina Beach. Coquina Beach, parking was terrible. Now, you got this big parking lot there, never floods. Didn't even flood during these storms. Why? It's entirely pervious surface and all the water goes straight through that parking lot. Like, it doesn't hold and retain water. If you had the capacity to put that, I'm not saying literally everywhere, but if you could selectively put it in places where we have heavier flood concentration, stormwater capture concentration, that would solve a lot of problems. I floated, not really seriously, because I don't know if anyone in the state of Florida is doing it, or if the state would even let me, but I made an argument we should almost require larger commercial parcels and parking to use the pervious surface to help that. And if they choose not to, then there's a fee associated with not using it, so we could put that fee towards stormwater. But make that a requirement that going forward, the materials being used have to be pervious, or you can only have some small percentage of your lot be impervious surface, the rest of it, and however you want to do it, you can leave it green space, or you can put pervious asphalt out, I don't care, but then start charging fees if they violate that and go above and beyond that, and I could take that money and go put it in some pipe someplace and fix the problem they're about to cause me down the road.
But it has to be accessible to wheelchairs.
That's do what?
Accessible to wheelchairs. If you're gonna put in parking lot that is a paved.
Whoa, no, I think you're misunderstanding. A normal, non-engineer person, myself included, would not be able to tell the difference between the Coquina Beach parking lot and the Siesta Key parking lot. It's paved. It looks like asphalt. You would not know. I wouldn't have known if they didn't tell me. Look what we did. Like, awesome. I wouldn't have known. I'm not an engineer. I'm not implying shell. I'm not implying dirt or gravel. This is asphalt. It's asphalt that's porous that allows the water to permeate it and seep through it down into the surface.
Because we talked about the parking lot that used to be at the convention center. And there was, I guess, a north line. It was all grass. So somebody that parked in what is called a handicap spots. It was still
The handicap spots
grass.
were paved.
Not all of them.
All the actual ones, based upon the amount we needed. They may have been full at some point in time if we had a handicap convention. But I mean, there were a lot of handicap spots. They were all paved. They all had a ramp. I mean, we were ADA compliant in every way. That said, the convention center parking lot doesn't exist right now because it's tore up because we're redoing the convention center. And at no point is there going to be any grass portion of that parking lot when it's done. At least they better not do it with the amount of money we're spending. Any other questions? Dana, you got any questions?
No.
No. Didn't give me a softball or something. Other questions? You have any questions? Hanging out?
I've been hanging out, and you answered a lot of stuff that I had in mind. The only other thing I was thinking is, what about 59th Street? Is that gonna be widened or not? I just don't-
Well, okay, let me rephrase.
Well,
I cannot promise anything beyond the term of my time on this board. Cal and I were pretty specific that we are never going to widen that road. We made that pretty clear during the
I
campaign.
think 50.
That has been taken, I'm trying to make sure I keep wording things properly. It was not taken off the CIP. There was a big chunk of the CIP projects that the capital improvement project that were deferred. This one was deferred, so it's out of the 5-year plan. It doesn't not exist anymore. That would take a board action to permanently remove that, but it's part of the thoroughfare plan. So that's very difficult to remove, not possible, but very difficult to remove. We have done it twice in my 4+ years on the board. The Terra Bridge, that went from Terra Boulevard to Honore, was fully removed. And the bridge on Mulholland that was connecting Twin River over to the other side to create the thoroughfare from Rye to Fort Hamer. Those were the only 2 times a board made actual action to permanently remove something from that was on the thoroughfare plan off of the CIP. Everything else just gets pushed into the future items, and there's literally over 1,000 things in that list. So right now, the 59th Street widening is still part of that, because when we bonded originally, that was part of the bonding. So that bonding has 59 as a specific use for it. So it'd be much more difficult to flat out remove, but we can kick that thing down the road forever and hope it never gets done, but I can't promise you that. But I do know, I've at least recommended, and I believe they caught on, to not move forward with any eminent domain proceedings, because I don't want to just own people's front yards and want to do anything with it. And Tal and I both specifically said, we're never going to approve widening this thing. And I would guess some of the other commissioners would go along with that. So I don't envision, at least in my 4 years and Tal's 4 years on this board, that there's going to be any threat of that road doing it.
Yeah, I think something on 51st and Manatee Cortez needs to be fixed before doing 59.
We don't
I
have any
saw
money.
that. I saw that.
We don't have any money.
I know, but I saw.
Yeah, 51st is different, because when people kept talking about 51st, they kept thinking we were talking about the Cortez, or not Cortez, the from like State Road 70 up to Manatee. That's not the 51st that we kept talking about up there.
51st.
They wanted to take 51st down to Elcon and cut it through, like 51st dead ends at 53rd.
Mhm.
The 51st you kept hearing about on the board wasn't to fix this road, it was to build this road from 53rd down to Elcon and create another north-south. I'm just telling you what it was. You could shake your head. It's not, right now, that's not getting done either. And we took that off even
But
appropriation.
51st and Cortez is really the worst intersection.
See, this, okay, I'm glad you mentioned, I don't know what time.
I had people come to me
Okay.
on the wrong side of the road.
We have staff working. That's a good point, and I've been trying to make this point, and I've been trying to hammer this into the board, because we talk about roads, right? We talked about endlessly widening roads and it's cost prohibitive to do so. At a fraction of endlessly widening roads, you could fix, you're not gonna fix all the traffic, but you could significantly improve traffic if we focus the money we do have on fixing intersections and fixing light timing at a fraction of the cost. If you just simply put extra turn lanes and slip lanes and things, and you made intersections more efficient, you made our lighting system and our light management system more efficient, you would fix a good portion. You would notice a meaningful difference in this guy if you fixed all those major intersections at 26th and 43rd and 51st and 59th.
43rd been done, which they did.
I know, and that just what we recently got done. But what is it? We recently meaning during the term.
Yeah.
I'm saying if we did that on these other intersections, on Cortez, then on Manatee, and then you start looking out east and doing, you look up in the parish area, the Ellen area, if you start meaningfully fixing intersections, allowing people to make right turns and left turns more efficiently, and be able to turn and merge in instead of just waiting, have to cut in front of cars every single time. And you made lights, so if you hit one green light, you can hit all the green lights if you're adhering the speed limit, like normal places do things. Instead of today, it took me 50-something minutes to get from my house in Greyhawk to IMG, because I hit literally 100% of the lights. Literally, I hit a light that's on 34th. The light has Bayshore High School coming this way and IMG this way. It was the middle of the day. Neither of those schools were coming or going, yet that light still turned red for 3 minutes. I didn't even make it through in one cycle, and then I waited another 3 minutes. Our traffic management's terrible. In our intersection, if you took money, a fraction of widening these roads and fixed all of those intersections and fixed those lights, you would see a meaningful improvement in our traffic.
You know, it's interesting, what I was talking to you about earlier about the county talking about building a bridge. One of the observations that a couple of guys in our neighborhood work looked at is that the traffic flow is horrible. That the light timing isn't very good.
It's awful.
That you get stuck where you want to turn right, but there's no lane there. That if we fixed a lot of that, a fair amount of the traffic flow issue would sort of resolve itself.
And if you want to see proof of this, I know people don't like comparing us to New York City, but I lived in New York City for a while. And I lived on the Upper West Side for a little bit. And whenever we were going any place on the Upper West Side, well, I get a taxi or every taxi, without fail, and just showing you how it doesn't matter how many cars are on the road, it matters how the road works, would cut over on the Upper West Side to Amsterdam to go north-south. You wouldn't think that because you don't even know what Amsterdam is. You think, Broadway, okay. No, Amsterdam. Way more cars would be on Amsterdam than all these other roads. Yet, they went there on purpose. These are taxi drivers. They knew what they were doing. Why? Because their lights are perfectly timed that if you go the exact speed limit on Amsterdam, once you hit a green light, you will never hit a red light. They're timed that way on purpose. So even though a disproportionate number of taxis would go all the way over to that road, all the way to the east side of the Upper West Side, and more cars would be on that road than all the other roads, it was the fastest, most efficient way to get someplace, simply because the lights were timed to exactly make it more efficient than anybody else. That was the only change. It wasn't any wider. There was more cars on the road. You got there faster, and taxi drivers would intentionally go to that road because they could get you someplace faster, even with more cars, simply because the traffic management system is better.
The worst intersection is 20 Manatee Boulevard going east. And
East where? What part?
it's not got come from UT 26 and if I want to go downtown, go and then get stopped because it's going around the bank. All of those lights on 26 are red. It backs people up, not only around the bank, but halfway
Those
down.
are not my lights. Those are not. Those are city lights on a state road. I'm just unfortunately have to live with them like everybody else. Those are not my lights. Yes.
Well, you may have just answered my question. I mean, you've got a good board, you guys are in charge. Why can't you tell people to fix the damn lights?
We are telling people that. The problem is, not the problem, the reality is they're not our lights. So all we can do is request people look at them. I've been begging DOT, or begging staff to beg DOT. This is my first year on the MPO, so now I can have more direct conversations. But there's an intersect, if you come off the interstate on Moccasin Wallow, it's literally a death trap. The fact that someone doesn't die there every day shocks me, because it's not a lit exit off of the interstate, and you have to make just a blind left turn with your eyes closed and hope you don't get T-boned by a semi. We've been asking for years to get a light there, even a temporary light there. They still haven't put one up. We're at their mercy. And the lights that you see that are.
They as the state?
Yes. Well, technically that exchange is federal government, but they funnel through DOT down to things like that. Like when you see the converging trains or all that stuff, that funnels down to the DOT. But technically that intersection is all the responsibility of US DOT because of the interstate. But the roads that have the biggest impact on lights are unfortunately all state roads. we maintain the intersections, like we have to get approval to do it, but we do it like 43rd. But the physical lighting systems are state lighting systems. So we have to get those coordinated with DOT. And then certain roads, certain sections are city down here, other sections are city of Palmetto. Unfortunately, there's a lot of moving parts with a lot of municipalities that all have their hands in there. It's like when people always talk about Palmasola Causeway, or it's like not Palmasola Causeway, out by Perico. Everybody and nobody controls that. Like it's ridiculous.
We've got an
And the same thing with
intersection,
the lights.
there's an intersection here, 14th Street and 53rd Avenue.
Yes, I know, with the Wawa.
Yeah,
Yeah.
So
I just
we've-
thought that Wawa went here.
all 4 intersections have been rebuilt in the last 5 years, maybe 10. In every instance, there was a desperate, screaming, crying need for a right turn lane. In every instance, the right turn lane was canceled
Yes.
and not allowed.
That's what I'm saying.
Who does that?
That's a state road crossing a federal road.
So it's like, good luck.
It's like even you look down 14th there, like all the medians are gone that used to be there. That's the thing. We asked them not to do that. Like, nope, we're gonna do it. It's our road. We're gonna do it. We want. Please put those back. This is terrible. So we're somewhat at the mercy. You know, we just plead our case and try to explain our case. But that's a perfect example. I hate that intersection. I will literally take other roads to get places because I don't like that intersection. That intersection is terrible. I don't feel unsafe there. I just feel like, okay, I've watched this light change 3 times. I'm kind of sick of it now. Because the left turn lane is so short. And there is no right turn lane. So it's just that first lane gets backed up and then trying to get over takes forever. But that's a perfect example of you fix that intersection, you'll get all those cars flowing so much more efficiently. And at no point in time should 53rd, one of our major thoroughfares, east-west thoroughfares, be bottlenecked by that intersection for what's seemingly such a simple fix, to your point.
But there's
Put in the
no-
right turn lane to get all those cars out of the way and expand the left turn lane, and you can get cars going through there much more efficiently on a road that should be much more efficiently operated.
But you can't do it. It's
We
not
cannot.
possible.
All we can do is plead our case, and it goes through the MPO. Again, I've not been on the MPO until this year. We just have to make sure that we as a board, talking with you as the citizens, truly understand our real priorities. Because at the end of the day, to get state roads and federal roads fixed, you got to get it in with the MPO, get it on their priority list, and that's what moves it up the funding cycle and the timing cycle. For too long, our priorities have always been widen this road, fix Moccasin Wallow and 15th Street and all these. There has not been a concerted effort to make our priorities things like intersections and lighting systems and side connector roads that would have a disproportionate impact on transportation time for less cost. It's always been these big ticket things. It's like fix this bridge and widen this road. We need to rethink our priorities and get our MPO priorities modified, which will move things up the ladder to DOT and the federal government to start getting these things done. It just takes a voice that says, these little things are more important to us right now. And it's a lot easier to get funding on little things than to go and say, I need this $100 million road widening over here. Or for half that cost, I can fix every single one of these intersections. But they look at what's your priority. Your priority is the 100 million, so now you gotta sit and wait until I can cobble together $100 million for you. So that'll get done in 7 years. But I could be fixing these intersections in a couple of years, right now. That's what's focusing on roads.
Put in sidewalks on that intersection, because even the bus stops at the one by Starbucks doesn't have a paved way of somebody in a wheelchair or walker to get to that bus stop. It's all
Yeah, that's-
a dirt trail.
The sidewalks on 14 have been discussed a lot. I know Commissioner Ron's been working on that with LK, who's our representative for DOT. That's a known thing, and Commissioner Ron has been proactively working on that. I don't have an update for you because of Sunshine. I don't talk to him on a regular basis about the Sunshine, not about the sidewalk projects, but Commissioner Ron has been doing things to try to move public safety, like light up Manatee and sidewalks. These are the things that he's been focusing on. And the sidewalks on 14 is one of them that he's been actively talking to. Anything else? Last chance. Nothing?
Thank you. Thank you.
43rd, that was your other one? All right.
No, that's good.
Any questions for you, Tim?
Well, you were talking about your YouTube channel.
Manatee local,
Now
we got it.
again, and this is probably.
All right, no problem.